There was a New York Times op-ed that blamed evangelicals for the coronavirus. They have raked the MyPillow guy over the coals for simply saying something about God and the Bible. And so we see so many parallels between every communist regime that's out there, every socialist regime that's out there, and the propaganda that's been peddled by these socialist and communist regimes to some, not all, some of the media in the United States still trying to push that kind of message. I mean, you have AOC, who got on her Instagram Live and was talking about how important it is, to push the progressive agenda and all of that. We have a lot of catching up to do, she said. And she actually demonized landlords by saying we live in a capitalist country where people are able to make money by just owning property. Okay, this is some crazy Marxist socialist idea that someone who, just because they are on a higher rung on the ladder, that they are evil and wrong and shouldn't be making a profit. Of course, she's forgetting about the fact that many tenants in these properties, in these apartment complexes that are owned by a landlord, they very often make more money than the landlord themselves. Like, very often those landlords are poor compared to some of the tenants that they have. And so for her to say that you should go on a rent strike, which is what she is saying, and you shouldn't pay your rent even if you can pay your rent, well, that's hurting some of the people that she says that she fights for, which are the poor, the marginalized. You don't know what kind of landlords are out there, but this is this Marxist, Leninist, this socialist idea that hierarchies are bad, and that communism and socialism, it creates inequity that these people say is enviable, that these people on the left say that we need here in order to survive our next pandemic. And we have a media who, just like every other media in every other communist regime, is covering for these ideas, which has so often ended in failure. So often, actually not so often, but unconditionally ended in failure and suffering. And I also think one interesting thing that we read in this book, Nothing to Envy, and in every account of any kind of socialist country, is that Christianity is always the first to go. And conversely, where Christianity thrives, so does freedom. That's probably why. That's why Christianity is always the first to go when it comes to totalitarianism. But the problem with that is that there is no concept of individual human dignity based on the fact that someone is just a human made in the image of God without the God of the Bible. There is no concept of that. Evolution doesn't account for that. Materialism doesn't account for that. A survival of the fittest doesn't account for that. Why everyone, no matter their capacity, no matter their ability, no matter what they look like, where they're from, what their skin color is, has the same human dignity and therefore is deserving of the same kind of inherent human rights that the government cannot give or take away. That is why Christianity and freedom and human rights coincide the more that history has progressed. Of course, you can say, well, America was a Christian nation and allowed all kinds of atrocities. Yes, that is absolutely true. Obviously, slavery, Jim Crow, we had Japanese internment camps, we had Chinese railroads, all of these terrible things, abortion that has happened in this country. But all of these examples are us stepping away from Christianity and God's good law rather than stepping closer into them.